And here we go. So welcome everyone to the summer study group for On the Verge, Wake Up, Show Up, and Shine. I am so thrilled to be here. I'm so thrilled to have you all here. I have been wanting to do a study group for my book for a year. The book's been out for a little bit over a year. And for many reasons, I've held back. And some of them I'll tell you about why. But we're here now, and I'm so thrilled to be engaging with others that are interested in understanding what it feels like to be fully alive, awake, engaged, electrified, and excited about life every day. And even if you're not right now, that's okay, because you got on this call, you turned on this video, and so something in you is stirring. And over the next 4 weeks, we're going to unpack that a little bit so that we can together discuss, and we can also individually start to sit with ourselves in different practices. So firstly, I'd like to thank you. Thank you for having the courage to show up for yourself. And every single class I teach, and I teach a lot of classes, I always say that. Thank yourself for showing up. It takes courage and curiosity to put everything else aside, to mute your phones, to close the doors, and to say, you know what, this time is for me, because there's something inside, there's something I'm sensing that I need to get to. And so I honor you for just doing that. There's so many people that say, I should have done that. I want to do this. I need to do this for myself. But you're all doing it. And so kudos to you. And as I often say in my yoga classes, you've already won the game just by showing up tonight. So thank you all once again. Let me tell you a little bit about how our sessions are going to be run. Excuse me. So in the beginning of each session, I do have a topic on the book that I'll talk about. So I'll talk about a topic, we'll do a little practice, and then we'll open it up. We'll get you all on video if you want or not, and we'll unmute you and we'll do some exercises and we'll discuss them. So at the beginning, it'll be more just sitting back and listening and allowing what I'm saying to kind of just seep in, to settle in, allowing your body and your mind to start to settle, because all of us are coming from what I call crazy busy lives. And it's impossible. I mean, it's really impossible in many ways to hear the insight, the wisdom, and that intelligence that's coming through us 24/7. It's impossible to hear it through the noise. So at the beginning of these sessions, we're going to just settle down through some practice, and hopefully you're just settling down and listening to me and allowing everything, the muddy water, to calm so that you can see clearly what's waiting for you. And if there's one thing I know for sure, and I don't know a lot of things for sure, but one thing I feel like I know for sure, and it's what drives me to do stuff like this, to teach, to write books, to do blogs, to put myself out there when I'm like, what am I doing? But it's because what I know for sure is that you, me, we are all incredible beings. And we just don't give ourselves enough credit for what we already have. We have so much more than we don't have. And so what I like to do as a teacher is to help people flip that switch. And it's not in a light sort of way. It's not like, okay, now we're just going to feel really good. No, it's in a mature way, an intelligent way. You're intelligent beings. And so in my own life, in my own experience, in my own exploration, I've uncovered a lot of rocks. I've looked under a lot of rocks. And I've also made a lot of detours. And so I'm here to share my experience fully, hoping that perhaps you can get some glimpses of your own perfection, of your own potential, because we have more potential in us than we can imagine. We just can't imagine it. And so hopefully some of you, all of you, have at least cracked this baby open. And I'm just going to, let me see, if everyone could just, you can turn off your video if you want. You don't have to be on video. And so the potential that we have is right there here. It's right here in every moment. And so this is what has inspired me to put what I have experienced in my own life on paper. Painstakingly gotten through the unpacking of my own experience over the last 30 years to put it on paper in some sort of organized form that can help others. So again, thank you for being here. So the structure, again, I'll talk for a bit on topic. We will practice, which is what we're going to do right now. And then we'll talk as well. We'll put you on mic. I have a bunch of questions for you. So if you have pen and paper, it'd be great if you grab that now. And then once you grabbed your pen and paper, just place your feet to the floor. We're going to do a primer practice, and I'm going to talk about the primer practices in a moment. Just place your feet to the floor and close your eyes. That's all you need to do. The first primer practice we're going to do is called Stop, Take 5, and Experience. So for a moment, close your eyes. Bring your attention to your breath. So just notice the experience of breathing in this moment. And now I'm going to ask you to count 5 breaths. And as you're breathing, just notice what's happening in your body. Notice how your body is shifting as you breathe. Notice what's happening in your mind. It's okay if you're thinking, what is she doing? Why are we doing this? It's okay. And now for one more moment, just pause. Just pause and be still. Now open your eyes. So open your eyes and notice. Notice if something has shifted. We can shift so quickly. You know, we can shift on a dime. We can shift our states immediately. Most of us don't believe that. So it's my hope that these practices, and they're so simple, can help you start to recognize how easy it is to shift yourself. So with your eyes open now, I'd like you to sit back. You could also close your eyes, that's fine. I'd like you to sit back and just listen for a moment. I'm just going to tell you a story, and you've read it at the beginning of my book, but sometimes it helps to hear it in a voice as opposed to just words. When I grew up, I was a mediocre kid. I was a mediocre student. I was a mediocre athlete. I was the middle girl between 2 boys in an Italian-American family. And so I had to be bigger, be louder, fight for, in some ways, some attention. But in my kind of just very middle-class upbringing in Brooklyn, in a mediocre school or mediocre class, kind of middle of the track as an athlete, I kind of just rolled through life. I had a great childhood. I had wonderful parents and wonderful grandparents that lived around the block. And I was a curious kid always, but never really shined in anything that I did. And so I went to college and I ran track. And I decided something in me, and in my sophomore year, I was at the University of Delaware, and something in me was encouraging me to transfer. I loved the school. I had great friends, but I just wanted to be in the city. I wanted just something new. And so I was transferring to NYU, to New York University. So as an average runner, I was middle of the pack, and I was approaching my last college track race. It was the championships, and I was running the 800. And so on that day, I did something very different than I usually did before I would run. And I went off on my own. Usually I hung out with all my teammates and I just fooled around. I didn't focus. I didn't stretch. I didn't warm up. It was a long time ago. We didn't have like all the crazies that we have now, right? My coach would say, 10 minutes, get your spikes on, get on the track. But that day I went off on my own and I started to jog and I started to think about my track career, my mediocre track career. And I started to say to myself, just beat your personal best. You haven't touched your record in a while. Why not try? Why not just go for it? And so I started to repeat to myself over and over again, personal best, personal best, personal best, over and over. And I must have done this for a good 10, 15 minutes. By the time I stepped on the starting line, I was calm. I remembered not feeling like I was going to throw up. Like that was distinctive because usually I was like, oh, this is going to hurt. Oh, this is going to be painful. I'm going to be in, middle or end of the pack. My head, doubt, fear. That day I was different. I just stood there. And so the gun went off and I took off. And I don't remember the first lap, but I do remember the second lap because I wasn't thinking. I wasn't thinking about anything. I remember just feeling my body. I remember seeing the red track. It was a bright red. I remember smelling the spring air. I remember the glorious day. It was in May. And I remember having one specific thought, and that was when I passed our best mid-distance runner. And I thought to myself, wow, she must be having a really bad day. That was it. That was an old pattern. I doubted that I could be running well, and I thought she must not be running well. Well, I ended the race in third place, and my teammates jumped on me, and I had no idea why until I looked up at the clock, and I had shaved 6 seconds off my 800, which is crazy, by the way, if you're a track runner. And I thought to myself, I did it. I beat my personal best. Well, within a split second, this wave of disappointment came over me and I thought, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You had that strength in you all this time? What happened? And so I pondered that race and I've been pondering it ever since. I pulled apart that race. Everything I did, everything I didn't do. What did I do? How did I shift into this state of strength and confidence and clarity? How did I do that? And how do I do it again? So at 19, at 21, when I graduated, I started searching. I wanted to know everything about potential. because here I was, very mediocre Cara, very mediocre runner, student, very just kind of middle of the pack. And I went from mediocre athlete to elite athlete in 2 minutes and change. And so ever since then, I have been studying myself and studying others, the masters. And I've studied religions and disciplines and gone deep into practice and gone crazy in bungee jumping and walking on hot coals, all in the quest to understand how to harness potential. And so as I started developing some skills and understanding about our potential, our minds and our bodies, I started to understand something very specific. And it didn't come to me what exactly this was until, and as you've read, my husband went to the Amazon. And when he came back, he was telling me about this place on the rivers, on the tributaries, where the indigenous communities would park their boats, their canoes, and they would sit, and it was a revered plot of land where two rivers came together as one. And it's at this spot of land where it has been proven that animal life and plant life are at their most diverse. They are thriving. Anything that's on this spot thrives more than other places. And this place is called the Verge. And so for me, it was like, boom, there's a place where we thrive. Is it a physical place? Is it a mental place? Is it emotional? Is it spiritual? What is it? Where is that place where everything converges, where we just shoot? Because that's what happened to me on the race that day, right? Something converged. Something came together. Mind, body, heart, confidence. Everything came together in those moments, and I soared. I shined. And so over the years, well, actually, when he told me that, I recognized that I wanted to live on the Verge all the time. I want to be there as much as possible. I want to shine. I want to thrive like those plants and animal life there in the Amazon. And so it wasn't till years later, almost right before I started writing the book, that I recognized that the Verge is what's happening in this moment. It's this moment. When we're present, when we're in our game, in this moment, when you're hearing these words right now, and as I speak these words right now, we are thriving. It's when we get distracted. It's when we get pulled away from what's happening right now that we aren't as strong, powerful, clear, compassionate, open, caring, creative. I can go on and on. But you know it, I know it, when you're in your game, when you're in the moment. It's like those moments, that you hear these incredible tragedies when the woman lifts the car off the child, right? How does that happen? Full presence, full engagement. That's how it happens. And so what happens when we're present is that we feel alive. We feel online. We feel in sync. We feel joyful, clear, happy, bright, energized, even if it's not the most spectacular moment. And I give so many of these examples. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and I'd like you to just pause and write down a few answers so that later on when we come back to discuss, you'll have some answers at hand. Okay, so here we go. What does it feel like to be fully alive? What does it feel like? I mean, you may be thinking of course, well, what do you mean? What does it feel like when you feel most alive? Just put down 3 adjectives. And now I ask you, what makes you feel fully alive? What are the things that you do out there? I'm going to give you some examples, but I don't want to throw too much at you. I'll tell you in a moment. What makes you feel fully alive? Third question of 4. What is the opposite of fully alive? Give me 3 examples of feeling the opposite of fully alive. What adjectives come to mind right away? And then finally, what makes you feel that way? What makes you feel the opposite of alive? What makes you feel dull? What makes you feel less than alive? These are questions that we're not often asked. You know, we're asked a lot, and we all do a lot of stuff, self-care and self-help, right? But getting right down to the prime of what it means to be human, what makes us feel alive? Because when you feel alive, you're present. I've spent a lot of time in the mindfulness world. I've spent a lot of time in meditation. I did a 900-hour, 2-year meditation teacher training class where we studied all kinds of aspects of meditation. And even in that program and in the other programs that I've done, it's so rare that you're asked, what does it feel like to be present? So we could spend our lives trying when all we need to do in most cases is pause and be. When you pause and you can just be in your breath, in your body, in this moment, excuse me, your body, you are present. Your body is always present. So when you're focusing on your breath in your body, just know that is being present. So I am bringing it down to the very base level here, the very base level that I feel like a lot of people just don't talk about. So what makes you feel alive? Well, first, what does it feel like to be alive? Some of the answers I often get, excuse me. Some of the answers are just clear, bright, joyful, happy. What makes you feel fully alive? Oftentimes I hear, the water, the mountains, my children, being alone in the woods, nature. What is the opposite of feeling fully alive? Dull, muted, tired, stressed, angry. Something got in my throat. And then finally, what makes you feel that way? Oftentimes it's stress, work, traffic, ugly people, gossip. So those are just some things for you to hold in your hand tonight. Just to start to notice out there what makes me feel alive and what doesn't. And that is what we're going to do tonight. I mean, if we could just keep it down to that simple level, you're going to start to notice, I'm sorry, you're going to start to notice that there are more moments that you feel alive than you realize. It's kind of like when you're looking to buy a car and you pick the make and all of a sudden you see that car all over the street. When you start to recognize what it feels like to be awake and alert and alive and engaged, you're going to notice these moments. So I'm going to tell you a couple of moments I had today. I got my hair colored. Yay, finally. And they were taking the color off. The woman was taking the color off. And she gave me the most unbelievable head massage. Right? She just was so patient and slow. And I was like, oh, this is one of those moments. Right? Simple moment. It was a glorious day. I caught on the side of my eyes as I was driving this gorgeous bank of wildflowers. Boom, right there. When we can start to glimpse our aliveness, we start to recognize that we're present more often than we're not. And I've got this, it must be allergies or something. We are present more often than we realize. So often when I'm teaching, people will say, you know, I've got such a busy mind. I can't stop my mind from thinking. I'm always worried. I'm always this. I'm always that. But meanwhile, there are these pockets, these moments when you are on the verge all day long. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about how that happens and when it happens. And so your assignment for this week is going to be a couple things. One is to recognize moments when you feel awake and fully alive. And any of those adjectives that you wrote down, and we're going to write down a few more. And then also, before you go to sleep at night, just close your eyes and recall 3 times you felt alive, awake, present, any of those words. But 3 of those, what I call glimpses of high definition, high voltage living. Those moments when everything got bright for a moment, just like when that woman was massaging my head and I was just in my body, in the moment, just so enjoying it. And one thing just to leave you with in this assignment, it doesn't always have to be a blissful, happy, cheerful moment. Because oftentimes when we're perhaps telling the truth to somebody, when it's uncomfortable, but we're in our shoes and in our body and being clear, those are also those glimpses when you feel awake and alive. So you want to notice all of them, all of the moments, the good, the not so good, but the moments when you were in your game, on the verge, in the moment, right there with what was happening. So that's your assignment for this week, and I hope that you'll try it, because the only way we're going to actually get stronger at recognizing presence is when we actually practice it. So I am going to close right here with this talk, and I so appreciate you listening. And so just pause for a moment. Let's just pause together before we leave. And for those of you that are on the call, the live call, you're going to stay on the call. But for the rest of us, let's just all pause together and notice. So another primer practice is just noticing this moment. So once again, just place your feet to the floor and close your eyes. And just notice what's happening. You can notice my voice, and I'll be quiet for a moment. Notice any other noise. Notice any physical sensations. You may notice your breath. You may notice a thought. Give yourself permission to just be still and notice. You are worth that much. And until next time, thank you again.